Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Let's celebrate it with or without champagne.
Yay! We're live. We're live.
We are live.
Yeah, like
Yay.
you ruined it with the
Yeah.
camera, honestly. So we can see.
Sorry?
You ruined it because now we can see you.
Oh,
The rest of us. You are the host, so you can have your
Annie,
camera.
look at your face. Come to camera. Don't you dare hide behind
My
the camera.
does not work this week.
It does work. Let's do
I
it.
thought it was gonna work this week. I asked the question yesterday. When are you gonna fix it? And they're like,
What mean?
they're like next week sometime. I'm like, what?
So what's happened?
It doesn't
It's
work.
not working. What did you do to it? Annie?
It's more my computer than the camera. So yeah,
Memory full?
Memory is always full, Cristiano. Don't worry about that. Memory is always full.
Dear me.
There's something wrong with I guess with the media card. I think that's what it comes down to. I'm not. So I have no idea.
This is why you don't do what's the word again? Apple. Let's not do Apple.
Mac.
Anyway.
Nothing wrong with the Mac. This could have happened with Windows long before now, right? So yeah, you never know. You never know. What's like we're here. As long as they can see you, Cristiano, the world is fine. They'll see me again. So next week they'll see me again. I keep saying that. So I've said that a couple of weeks now, but it's fine.
When we come back next week, be sure to have your beautiful suit on or something colorful. I don't want to see the bland gray, blue, and the things that you wore. I need the no human standard. Nothing less will suffice.
No, I'm not going to wear a suit. I'm not going to wear. Why would I wear a suit?
Not a suit. I said something colorful, bright colors. Remember? Okay, folks. So
my suits are bright colored. My shirts are what they are. My t-shirts are what they. You've seen most of them, right?
Find some t-shirts that have colors in them. That's not good enough, Annie.
Is blue good enough? Blue, gray?
No, they're just dull. It's like are you going to court?
My wife buys them. I can't say to my wife, "Those are just boring t-shirts." You know how wives do it. They won't buy one; they'll buy 6 of the same one. So I'm kind of stuck.
I'm not that wife. I'm sorry. I'm
really.
Not that wife. No. My husband has followed his life.
My job locked, as we call it, right?
It's a must.
I'll do my best, Cristiano. I'll do my best.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm alive, Annie. This week for me is week of funerals. So I've got another one tomorrow. Yes, I have another one tomorrow. But this is life. That's one thing that's guaranteed. Death is a guaranteed life. We don't know when it's going to happen, but we all know it does happen. And apparently, it comes to us all.
We say condolences. Now, it happens to us all. I assure you.
Yes.
Do we say condolences?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much for your condolences. But it's something that happens, and we just have to embrace what life gives us, and find the best way to move and to still keep living, because at the end of the day we still have to live, and that's the truth. As
long as it's not your funeral, Cristiano, I'm happy.
Oh, absolutely not. God forbid. I know heaven's not ready for me yet.
God still has sense. Yes, I hear you. You don't want Cristiano avenged yet. Delay it as long as you can.
He's giving me to torture you.
2 or 3, maybe. God, I hear you. And then you may be half ready for Cristiano to come and set in the kingdom.
I'll be here till I'm 105 at least. 120 will do.
Is it well? So what is it today? What's this month? Is it Baby Loss Awareness Week or?
It is Baby Loss Awareness Week starting from today. It's also Black History Month from today. So there's a lot of things to kind of like talk about, but I want to focus on Baby Loss Awareness Week and really want to support those who are experiencing this. And the reason why we've got, triggers part 3 is because right about this time of the week is when people generally do feel that we get triggers every time we're out, every time, depending on who you are, where you are in your journey. You may still experience triggers. And for some, it can be quite raw, quite emotional. It can become overwhelming. So, with Baby Loss Week being this week, before I even begin, let me welcome you guys. Let me welcome those who've joined us. Thank you so much for being here. As always, we love for you to share. If you're here with us, share, share, share. If you're watching on replay, please do share this event, this live, because we want to ensure that we are reaching those who really need this support. I want to say thank you for those who are in studio with us today. We really appreciate you. And Alavine is new to me, so welcome, Alavine. Welcome, Alexis. If you're down there thinking, I have something to say, please don't miss out on the opportunity to come up live and to share with us. If you know anyone who may benefit from this event and this live, please do ping them in. When I say ping, send that or share the link, I should say, actually. Share the link, share the link or repost this event so that people can come and get some information. As you know, and it's already we do not know what we're going to get, or we don't know who's watching this, who might be impacted. But as usual, I do want to say thank you so much for being here joining us. And today's show for me is really about triggers, what they look like, the types of, and how you can navigate the triggers that you experience when you experience them. So there's quite a few things to get to get through this this evening or after in the morning for you wherever you are.
In an
And
hour.
also, I would like to really yes, I'd like to. I would like to really yes, I would like to really I would like you to tell us where you are joining us from, which part of the world, because I don't know if you've noticed, we get people from all over the world, right?
Of
This is
course
the
we do
beauty
today.
of being online, is
We have
that hi
We have
Sam.
Sam in
This
Mexico. So where Sam
hi
is.
Sam.
I can
So this
see
is
I see Mike on our LinkedIn, but Mike is not showing up here.
oh
Thank you.
no. I
So
think he
Alice,
was waiting to join, Mike was.
but it's here. No, it's here. It's here now. It's on
Is he?
on the LinkedIn feed, so not on this one. So Mike,
Oh,
thank you for joining us. I
I see
will
you.
copy and paste your message if it doesn't show. No, suddenly it just pops up eventually, right? So
It
Alice
does,
is,
but I couldn't see him.
I think Alison's in Dubai, so it really is an international audience. But Mike in the US, right? And our speakers here again, Alavine and Alexis are from different parts of the world. So it is an
Oh,
international
thank you so much,
show,
Mike.
right? Yeah. Have you seen Mike's comment?
I just read it. Yeah, I'm just looking at that now.
We're gonna read it out, Christiana. And he put it on the screen in my room yesterday, and I was like, "No, let's save it for her room." I see it
Oh
now,
my
Mike.
goodness.
We should pay homage to the great Christiana. We're not worthy. I'm bowing. We're not worthy.
Stop it. Hello, Alison. Welcome.
I'm just saying. Right?
Stop it.
It's so lovely of Mike, though. He does capture.
It is amazing of him. Just he has a way with words, is the way I'm going to put it.
Truly,
But yeah,
truly.
he really does. I do appreciate you, Mike. Thank you so much. You are awesome. So today, like I said previously, this today begins a week long of baby loss awareness. Personally, I don't think a week is long enough. I believe it should be at least a month long. Baby loss awareness month as opposed to week. It kind of allows people to have more time. Because in things like this, a week feels too short. You know, I'm just going to begin with why I wanted to talk about this particular topic. And as you know, this is the third part three of this series. The first two were all about language, the language we use around those that have and are experiencing miscarriage and may experience miscarriage in the future. The language we use, the words that we use, has an impact, not necessarily a positive impact, but a negative impact on those which ears it lands in. And so it's really important that we address that. So we spoke about things like, the words that clinicians use, practitioners, healthcare practitioners use, to describe things. An example I gave last time, in fact, actual comment, clinical term that I gave was incompetent cervix. And I remember when those words landed in my ears, I had to ask the question, did my womb go to work and was kind of incompetent with the job it needs to do? Because when you turn it on its head, that's kind of what we're saying as humans. Like your whole reproductive organs and systems is incompetent. Imagine experiencing a miscarriage and being told that. How would you feel? So for me, it's about really campaigning for healthcare sector to change, or fertility sector rather, to really change the language that they use. But today, and because it is Baby Loss Awareness Week, I wanted to touch on the triggers, and also to bring you some hints and tips, practicality in how you can navigate the triggers that you experience, especially if you're in a place where you hear the words, it's Baby Loss Awareness Week. What does that look like for you, sound like for you, feel like for you? What triggers do you experience? What things would you rather not see, hear, come across, smell? Or when you do have those experiences, how do you deal with them? How do you navigate them? How do you move knowing what you know and feeling how you feel? Because let's face it, nobody can tell you how you experience your memory of the loss that you are carrying. And as we know, some of us carry that loss for years to come, weeks, months, and years to come. It's not really about recovering, but looking for ways to move forward, looking for ways to acknowledge, for ways to accept. And for those around us who purport to support us, to know how to help us and support us, even when we can't help and support ourselves. So that's what this is about today. And I want to really begin, and if you know me, I talk about stats all day long in this place. I used to try and get all of this done in my head, but what tends to happen is I'll end up forgetting certain aspects of what I want to talk about. So today I've decided I'm going to actually write them down. Write them down so I remind myself of everything I'm going to speak about. Just from bullet points, I can remind myself. And it's really important to say that, when we think about baby loss, people think there's so many thoughts that enters one's mind. The one thing that I hear a lot is, oh, well, how far gone, or how long was it, or when were you due, and so on and so forth. And I always say those questions are triggering questions. They really are, because the experience you have, and when you hear those questions, it takes you back to that moment. And it could take you back to that moment, that dreaded moment that we try to sometimes avoid, or we try to sometimes place at the back of our minds when we're trying to live life. Okay, so life still happens as these things happen to us in life. And I'm going to say this, is the fact that when a pregnancy loss happens, we think about the ordinary things that people will take for granted. We are heightened by those things. What I mean by that is the anniversaries that we think about. So the anniversaries of the lost loved ones, as I like to call it, the hospital sounds, the social media pregnancy posts that we see. For those especially who are on social media, I know I have, you know, weeks or months or dates around the year that I do my best to not focus or not be on social media. And no one would ever know that unless I tell you that. But there are dates of the year, 3 dates in the year that I would not go onto social media because I don't want to be reminded of. Even though I speak of miscarriage and baby loss, and those 3 dates are pertaining to the 3 losses I've experienced. And so you remember those dates. Most people remember the smell, whether it's baby lotion, the smell of something, or the clothing, or whatever that you had with you, or that you remember. For some, we go through a lens of getting the whole nursery decorated and placing things and just enjoying, because let's not forget that before it became a miscarriage or baby loss, the start of the journey, when you first learn that you are pregnant or you've conceived, it's joy. The thought is joy. The experience at first is joy. It's a joyous occasion naturally. And then you go through this journey of experiencing a loss that begins to feel like a nightmare. So sometimes the smell is a trigger. And we can have painful responses from those triggers that we have. So for us, the life, this space here is really to let you know that you are not alone. We understand what you are going through. We understand the triggers that you may be experiencing and why you're experiencing them. And that, it's nothing to be ashamed of, to be fearful of. And there's no judgment here. It doesn't matter how long ago that was for you, because each person deals with their loss in a different way. How you choose to remember your loved ones, as I like to say, is nobody's business but yours. It's entirely up to you. It is your right to do so. And so tonight, it's really just thinking about the impact. So whether that be, the emotional impact we feel, psychological impact that we feel. For some of my clients, they will tell me things like they can feel themselves like heat on the inside rising up. For some, it's the sweaty palms they get. For some, it's the agitation. For some, it's not able to even be anywhere close. That reminds them of that journey once again. And so it's really important. Let me just read Mike's definition of trigger. That definitely smells, internal experience, sudden wave of shame, absolutely. Involuntarily recalls the past trauma and sparks a survival response. Yes, triggers are unique to each survivor. Absolutely, I agree. But they tend to cluster around the senses. That's right, and emotions and memories tied to the trauma they experience. Mike, 100%. So that for me is the reason why this is so important, and I really want to talk about it. And as we know, that most miscarriages happen within the first 12 weeks. That's an early miscarriage. And to just think about that, imagine you're in a work environment and you haven't even told anyone, because there's this thing of most women, and I'm sure the women in the room who've been pregnant will understand this, will wait off until the 12-week scan to say, I will say nothing to anybody until I've had that scan. And I'm definitely sure that everything is okay, the baby's fine, then I can, disclose that I am pregnant or tell family that I'm pregnant, and so on and so forth. Now imagine not telling anybody that you're experiencing pregnancy whilst you're in a workplace or indeed at home. And then the terrible happens. That loss happens. Hi, Rosemary. That loss happens. And now your emotions, your mental state is so different from where you were, but you still continue to go to work. And some of my clients who returned to work 2 days, 2 short days after experiencing a miscarriage because they had not disclosed that they were pregnant to begin with. Having that pressure, not having the time to just, be in the moment and to grieve. Your concern and your worry is, I've got to return to work, I have things to do. So, really and truly, when we think about it, imagine having to have the following year the triggers, the way that we experience miscarriage, you know, doesn't necessarily determine our triggers, but there's a feeling, and a connection that happens in a workspace, in a work environment where we're not able to disclose or tell, for example, our HR managers, this is what we've experienced. How can I explain my pattern of behavior? For some, erratic, for some, fearful, for some, the performances within a work environment and the productivity declines. So it's how do we now voice that? Or for example, when you're going through this trigger in a work environment, it's very difficult to tell anyone openly because of the fear of judgment. And I remember doing, a survey, carrying out a survey of 100 people back in 2021. And I was really trying to find out what exactly you feel in the work environment, what women and men experience, what's their state of mind, how easy is it for them to disclose their loss. And naturally, knowing what I knew, I really wanted people to come up and say, this is exactly what I've experienced. And that fear of being able to disclose what you're going through was so high that some of the men said to me, in fact, let me go back. 33% of men in that survey said that they were in fear of judgment, right? In fear of being judged, for different reasons. And one of the reasons that did surprise me was that the fear of being judged for being at work and being judged for leaving their loved ones to deal with what they were going through. And I really had to think about that for a moment. Then I asked the question about the triggers. What's the trigger for you? So men and women experience triggers similarly, but also differently at the same time, which we'll talk about this evening. And so I'm going to pause for a moment and welcome Calm. Welcome, Calm. It's good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I'm glad to hear you, and I'm glad to
Good to see
hear
you.
that you're on top of what you. I am speaking. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes,
Perfect.
we can hear you.
Okay,
Nice.
okay. All right. Well, it's good. It's glad to be here. I'm glad to see you all. Um, I do not want to take too much of your time to do the greetings, but I just want to make it short. It's lovely, and I'd like to hear more of what you have to say, Christiana. I'm very
Thank you.
enamored with your subject, your topic.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So, yes, Annie, I'm going to pause.
Yeah. Well, let's talk to Alavine. Let's get her take on these triggers. Alavine, what I
Yes.
guess, what are your thoughts on triggers around miscarriage and baby loss, or even even child rearing, child development, and all that stuff?
So I think triggers would appear when we expect them the least. And I think it's already said, right? And I think everyone has their own triggers. It could be something internal, like Mike said, and it could be something external, like smell, sounds, etc. But I think we need to learn how to deal with them in order to heal, not to forget. We will never forget a loss. It is okay about that. But in order to heal and to be able to, let's say, have this pain, but less painful. It is a little bit strange what I'm saying, but I think when we can um, have our emotions under our control, not totally because it is impossible, we can have a better control of our life. And I also think to diminish these triggers, we need to go through the grief. And it is very hard about that because, in general, like Christiana said, nobody knows, even if everyone notices, but
Mm.
nobody knows about that. Even sometimes, even us, we don't know, but our body knows. You know, a woman knows. A woman knows when she's pregnant, even if she didn't go through tests, um, the pregnancy test or blood test, etc. A woman knows when she's pregnant just because of her emotions. And it is for that, I think it is very much more difficult to go through these triggers, and it is very much more difficult to heal or to grieve something we never touched, we never had in our hands. And I need to sleep a little bit more about that. I started in the past, but I think I need to have more information, maybe, or maybe I need to make that from my emotions, from my heart to my mind, to my brain, because I'm someone who is very emotional, very empath, and I really need to. I really need times to make my words, so my emotions into words. So that is my idea about triggers. And the most difficult is when you have no proof, nothing, no test brought to remind you you were not crazy. And I think that is the worst part concerning a trigger. That's it.
Thank
And
you.
by the way, hello, Com.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think that there's lots of insights there. I think that part. I said, as you're talking, Levine, part of me is thinking, right, are we talking about coming to terms with triggers that we may face or experience? Or are we talking about grieving properly and then that way we can face anything? It's a question. It's a question. So I don't know what the answer is. So no. But
That's a great
Christian,
question, Emily.
what do you think?
So we're talking about triggers that we experience in different times, different moments. The one thing, as you know me, Annie. When I talk about miscarriage and baby loss, when we first began this, more than a year ago, I used to hear words like, "Oh, we can just recover and you heal," and so on and so forth. The reality is, it's not about healing. It's about moving forward. It's about being able to take those steps, and to really know your own grief, for you to be able to move forward, for you to be able to, be in a place where you can speak about your experience without falling apart. You must understand and know your own grief and the impact and how that impacts you. The trauma. So we're speaking of those triggers that we have, whether it be, annually, monthly, depending on where you are on your journey. I spoke about, and I always speak about, this. The example I use is the gentleman who spoke about the loss of his son 24 years after, they'd lost that baby, and it still stuck with him. He still had triggers. For example, one of his triggers was watching another child that they'd had. So the child that followed after that miscarriage was a trigger, because they would look at the child and they would think about what could have been and what it would have been like. We kind of imagine, you know, what would they sound like? What things are they doing when they have birthdays around when that baby would have been, due, or the due date of? Those are triggers. So we're not speaking of triggers that um, you know, that happen every year. Speaking of triggers that are happening as we live our lives, so kind of a lived experience triggers it. And as you said, Alvin, I do agree. You do not know when that's going to happen. There is no time frame. There is no warning signs. It could be something as simple as, a scent. And I'm going to go into types of triggers, whether it's a clear audience. Let's think about the types of trigger that we go through. I mentioned earlier hospitals. For some, going to the hospital is a huge deal because that in itself is a trigger zone. It brings up every memory, every experience that they went through. Not everybody experiences in the same way, but I know that with regards to my clients, they do tell me for some, going to hospital they find very difficult, and therefore they avoid going to hospital where they need to. They will avoid it like the plague. That's one. So when we talk about triggers, they happen every single day to different people at different times and for different reasons. So that's what we're going to go through today. I'm hoping I'm answering your question, Annie.
Yeah, it's a big topic, right? So let's hear from Alexis, and we'll go to Mike. Welcome, Mike. Good to see you, my friend. Glad you're here. Alexis, are you there?
Good evening.
Okay, Alexis has been on big.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, momentarily has things, but it's okay. Triggers. My triggers. First of all, I was young. I had already had 3 children. I was very young, and it was like for me the first trimester, and I did not have a support system that I could share. And until I met Christiana, hadn't realized that I could. So my thoughts have been, I wonder what that person would have been like, who they would be, what would they do? So those come kind of randomly. I'm not sure what the triggers are. I do think there's always, I believe that there's always that sense of loss, because that's what I feel. And it can vary, those triggers, and what moment or what scenario, or if someone else is going through that, you feel a form of empathy for them. And I don't always know what to say because it's so individual. It is very individual. And the hardest part for me, what didn't really happen to me, was a friend of mine. I met her after the fact and we became good friends. And she had a 21-year-old son, an 11-year-old. And we were having some kind of conversation about something. And she was very depressed and grieving. And it turns out, and this just breaks my heart even right now, and don't know what to think or feel completely, is that I asked her, what was going on, and she said it was the anniversary of the date she lost triplets. And I will never forget that, because I didn't know how to respond, because how do you feel? And you can't measure your own feelings against that. Yes, that is such a devastating loss. But as far as I'm concerned, we all have our depths. It never goes away. How do you measure? How do you, some people say, well, the memory will fade, but I don't think so, because this was a long time ago for me that this experience happened, and it hasn't gone away. And then to encounter someone with such a great loss, I mean, that is very profound for me. So while I'm here listening to each and every one of you, it's just very profound. But I'm really glad that we have this venue to learn and discuss and know that we're not alone. And I think that's the greatest value. That's about all I have to say for the moment.
Thank you, Alexis.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for that. I think we'll go to Mike and then I will jump back on because we can really begin with, and thank you for your comment on Mike. The first thing to think about is this situational or sensory triggers, but I'll pause on that and I'm going to go to Mike. Hi, Mike. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to answer Annie's question. I think that grief can be triggering. And I also think that triggers, as it relates to miscarriage or any other trauma, um, they're very closely connected. But so I think when I think of triggers, I think of two responses. The first one is an immediate one. Normally, you're very confused, particularly if you haven't been exposed to the idea of triggers or understand what they are. You're going to be shocked. You're going to be very uncomfortable. You're going to be maybe in a panic. You're really going to be upset and not know what to do. Yeah, triggers are very scary when you don't understand them. So I think the first thing is to try to, and I agree with everyone that was talking about having support, because when you're in the middle of it, and if you, I don't think they'll ever go away completely, but I think they can be attenuated over time if you are in a supportive group and you can start to talk about these feelings, because I think over time they can lessen. They will never go away. Whoever said that, I 100% agree with. Grief, and just like I mentioned in the trigger, they're all unique to each one of us. So, how you are triggered, maybe even in the same or similar situation, is going to be different. So I think we also have to kind of embrace that. And I think listening can probably be the best way to support someone that is dealing with a trigger. But if they're able, and it may not be maybe the first time that they're triggered, but maybe a little down the road, if they're comfortable talking through what they're going through, that in and of itself can act as a way to help them, like I said, attenuate. I don't think you're ever going to become completely, I don't want to say cured, but I don't think they're ever going to go away completely. But I did want to say, Annie, I think they're also tied with grief, and grief is very similar in that I don't think grief goes away, and you can be triggered in a grief response, but by the same thing that, well, not the same thing, but well, actually, it would be in this case by the same memory, smell, to Christiana's point, maybe just location, being in a hospital. Normally hospitals have smells and feels and whatever else. So anything can trigger that. And it can just be a memory, maybe maybe a spouse or family member or whatever is bringing something up, and it just triggers that memory. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. That's awesome. I do agree with everything you've said. The one thing I do want to do and would like to do today is looking at the types of trigger that we experience, but we may not be able to put in the category that we experience it in. So the first one, as I mentioned earlier, is a situational or sensory triggers. Where people have pregnancy announcements can be a trigger. Birthday parties with babies or baby showers, indeed, or baby blessings, can be a trigger. For example, if you're seeing a close friend who is now pregnant, who's announcing their pregnancy, you could end up being flooded with grief, feeling of grief, feeling of stress, anxiety, healthcare reminders, as we mentioned, hospital corridors, waiting rooms, ultrasound imagery, certain dates, um, scan dates you remember, your due dates you remember. Phone calls from hospital sometimes triggers that experience, that loss. Anniversaries and dates like that of, again, that loss is a trigger. And as we know, a lot of us are on social media at the moment. The world is on social media. So social media feeds of pregnancies or hashtags, um, just adverts or anything that is baby related could trigger you on social media. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you went here, you probably wouldn't have heard me say that for me, that trigger when it comes to social media around the dates of, memory or memorial remembrance dates for me, I recuse or refuse, remove myself from social media because I don't necessarily want to see the reminders. I used to be that way. Um, and it took a while to be able to be on social media and see, a message of someone celebrating their pregnancy. And I'm always happy for those who get pregnant. My friends were all pregnant after I experienced my, the losses. And so it's about how we get from having those triggers and knowing exactly what to do in those situations, knowing how we really combat those thoughts that we have. For some, it's the self-negative thoughts that they have. The next one is looking at social or relational triggers. In particular, when you're in an office environment or work environment, and you hear someone say things like, "Oh, you can always try again," or at least it happened early. This is tying it down to when I spoke about, the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. Some of us don't like to disclose that we're pregnant, and some do. And when the loss happens, that in itself can be quite stressful. And then when you hear the language, "Oh, you can always try again," as if to say you are out there buying candy. Um, it's that insensitivity that really, that truly pulls us and truly gets us in a negative mind space, a negative mental state. And also the lack of acknowledgement when it comes to relational triggers. The lack of acknowledgement, when people say, "Oh, I don't know what to say," it's very difficult to hear that. So I always try and say the best thing for you to say with somebody who tells you or discloses to you that they've experienced a miscarriage is really to ask them how they are. You know, I have been in spaces where I've heard people say, "Well, I don't know what to say." And I have to really think, really? We're all humans. How about we think about humans first? Okay, Alexis, thank you. And thank you for joining us to begin with. So yes, it's about thinking of, I know we're all humans. If that was your family member, what would you say to them? How will you relate to them? In whatever way you're going to relate to them is the same way that you should relate to anyone who tells you or discloses to you that they're experiencing miscarriage or have experienced miscarriage or baby loss. Then we think about internal reminders, associative reminders, the smells. And I know Mike mentioned that earlier and Alovine. It's the smells that we remember. It could be something as simple as a baby lotion. I'm getting feedback. Is someone's mic, sorry, open on? So it's something as simple as a baby lotion, a formula. It could be a song. It could be this, even the sound of a baby crying can really reactivate our memories, because let's not forget, grief, through grief, we have memories and we carry those memories. Okay. And so we could be reactivating that memory in that space, in that moment. And as Mike also mentioned, it's a distinct smell. that we come across, smells that we experience that triggers us. And so these are some of the triggers, or the types of triggers, categories of triggers that we can experience when we are moving forward or trying to move forward. And there's nothing wrong with that happening. What we really need to think about is how we navigate or how we deal with the triggers that we experience. For some, they freeze, and again, depending on how where they are in their journey, that could be quite difficult. If you just experienced it, let's say a few weeks ago, you may feel really, really, you may have a really negative impact on you. And that might have an adverse reaction. So it's important that when we meet those, or we're around people who are experiencing, or at least they disclose to us, because we don't always disclose what is going on in the mind or in our brains, in our heads. But if somebody takes the courage to disclose to you what they are going through, the first thing is to listen. And the thing is, how do we listen? How are we listening? Are we fully present? Are we fully there? Or are we partially there? Because when we think about a parent who's trying to describe the re-traumatization when attending, it could be a routine hospital appointment, or the smell that they experience, or even the sound that they experience, the cry of a baby, whatever the triggers are, in that moment, do we pause? Do we stop and give them our full attention, 110%, 150% attention to them? Or are we partially in? And it's also asking them what might be helpful in that moment. How would you like me to help you? What works for you? Or perhaps they already have a plan in place. That could be a trigger plan, a plan of when they go out, when they're out and around and about. What is their plan? What does that look like? So we think about, the first thing is, in the immediate moment, when trigger hits the person experiencing this, we can begin by using some breathing techniques or some grounding. So some grounding exercises would be ideal. So the first one is grounding in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have to think about, number 5, box breathing. Yes, Mike, that's my next one. That is next on my list. But the first one is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's 5. It's the 5 things that you can see. The purpose and the reason for this is a distraction. So when we have, I'm going back to babies or children, we use the distraction technique for children too, whereby they want, to prevent or to avoid a tantrum or fit in the middle of nowhere. We try to distract the mind. So in this case, it is 5 things you can see, 4 things. So 4 things that you can touch, and then 3 that you can hear, 2 you can smell, and one thing you can taste. But this needs to be done for at least 60 to 90 seconds. So that really is a distraction technique to be able to bring that person back down from the anxiety, because again, with that feeling comes anxiety, the stress. That could be your chest rising. That could be from internally, from inside. You feel this rise of heat in the body. I can only explain it to you in the way that I have felt it, and others already have felt it. You have that feeling where there's this sudden wave of heat inside you that is coming up towards the chest. And for some, you almost can't breathe, but you're there. And then we go to what Mike mentioned, which is on my list, is the box breathing, where you inhale for 4, you hold for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds and hold. So, and you repeat that 4 times. It serves the purpose to quickly regulate your heart beat. because in those moments, your heart will beat really fast. And for some, they go on to experience panic attacks. So this is one way of trying to bring down or reduce, the level of stress that they feel. And there is the 4-7-8, to the 4 in, 7 hold, 8 out of breathing. And the number 4 is safe place, to visualize a safe place. So where you have felt the happiest, the safest, imagine that. Imagine becoming calm. Imagine feeling safe. Imagine seeing that safety. What does it look like? What does it feel like as you feel safe? The next one is naming the sensation. Say it out loud. What is your body feeling? Is it tightness? Is it cramp? Is it numbness? What's the sensation you're feeling? And what would you rather feel? Express the words. The one thing that you don't want to do is keep it held in. You must let it out, because this serves to decrease, and it decreases your limbic activation. So let's think about that for a moment. It means that how you feel heightened, you're going to help yourself in reducing the tension that you're feeling, the anxiety that's rising inside of you. So those are the ways, practical ways, that we can begin to really help us reduce the triggers that we feel. Think of them a different way. Wherever you are, you can also sit or find somewhere to sit down in those moments. If you're at work, find a space where you're able to have privacy, because this is not everybody wants to be exposed or go through this trauma and this trigger in the presence of their colleagues, which is understandable. I spoke about plans earlier. It's always good to plan. So having a planner to say, if this happens, if I'm triggered, what do I do in that moment? It depends on where you are when you're triggered. So again, I'm going to go back to knowing your grief and knowing your triggers, because you can allow yourself to really put a plan in place to be able to know what action to take with which trigger. And in so doing, it means that you can definitely educate others with how they can support you when you're experiencing that trigger, because not everybody around you will definitely know that you're experiencing that trigger. So it's a really great way of allowing others to help you. Because one of the comments I made earlier, people will say things like, oh, I didn't know what to say, I didn't know what to do. Whereas when you know what to do, when you know what to say, you can let people know or give them that information that really helps them to support you. What do you look like when you're experiencing that trigger? For some, going into a space, I'll give you an example. I had a client who was going into a space whereby there was a baby shower at work that was happening, or a maternity leave celebration is the word I'm going to use it to describe it. And they knew they were going to be in a workspace. Now, ideally, the advice was you can either take the day off or you can choose to go into work. And should you choose to go into work, how are you going to deal with this? The first thing was to look at, is there an item of clothing, an item of something that you could put on for HR to understand and know that this is a day that you're experiencing this? Because that then tells us what mood you're in and what mindset you're in, to be able to then allow you the space, the time to remove yourself when necessary, and remove yourself when needed and when applicable to you. to be able then to go away and start to practice, whether that is grounding, breathing, visualization, and naming a sensation. So it's really helpful. Creating a trigger plan really does help you, and it doesn't have to be a lot of writing. Even a one-page trigger plan can help you. Will helps to know, who to call, safe places for you, safe spaces for you, a distraction list that you may need, and always, always, always keep your phone with you, because that's helpful, right? In case you're going to need additional support, always have your phone with you. So I'm going to speak about limiting accidental exposure. Kind of set reminders for yourself. Mute things like anything pregnancy related. So for example, for those who were previously online when they were pregnant, looking for, I don't know, baby clothes or cots and different things, you may have had a whole list of shopping. Remember to switch off those notifications, just so that you do not end up getting, and these, as we all know, that the algorithms will pick on what you are experiencing online or looking at online, and it will send you more of what they have they've gathered that you watch. So be sure to turn those off or cancel those when you can, where applicable, either temporarily or permanently, entirely up to you how you do that. Set gentle boundaries. So things like when someone says to you, I don't know what to say to you, or they ask you a question, a simple answer, thank you for your care. I'm not ready to talk about this right now. And it's okay to do that. Because someone asked me a question, am I okay in saying that? Would that feel or seem rude? No, it isn't rude. It is you putting the right boundaries in place and protecting your mental, psychological, emotional space until you are prepared to talk about that, if you ever are. So prepare a list of boundary line for, I don't know, people who are well-meaning. I know I've had those who are well-meaning in my time, and I dealt with them positively, carefully, sensitively, but not everybody will be in a frame of mind, in a state of mind to do so. Think of what works for you. Think of what you, how you'd like to remember your lost ones. So that could be lighting a candle. That could be having a keepsake box. That could be some kind of ritual of acknowledgement that you want to do, allows you to remember them, rather than you having a surprise trigger. And I'm going to pause for a moment and hear from our audience.
I like pausing for a moment. Yeah, our time is gone, Christiana. You know this, don't you?
I do.
I have to welcome Lisa. How are you doing, Lisa? Always great to see you, my friend.
Hi, Lisa. We've got 2 minutes left, Ellie.
I know. I'm looking. It says an hour, so the 2 minutes is you dreaming.
It's almost up.
I know. So let's go for some of Mike's amazing comments. So Mike says, the thing on triggers, learn what they are and how they can come about, usually out of nowhere. Then learn how to address them in the moment and over time. I agree with that.
I agree with that too. So that's why I speak about putting plans. So trigger plan, and if you remember, I mentioned the way that men are triggered and the way that women are triggered can be quite different. So it's really taking the time to put trigger plans in place. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they are going to be set in stone. They might change depending on where you are, given the situation or circumstances. But it's good to have a trigger plan in place. So you know what helps, roughly how it happens, what the possibilities are. So the trigger plan isn't saying that we know verbatim exactly what trigger is going to be. For some people, they actually do know what trigger is going to be, exactly the trigger which places, which spots, and so on and so forth. But also, the trigger plan is really can be created loosely, you know, to really help you to know what next steps to take, to really help you to identify the places. Sorry, guys.
AJ used the toilet. I'm just saying. Sorry. Does anyone else? We do know. All right. Excellent. Look, I'll save you for a couple of minutes, Christiana.
I may have been triggered.
I think Mark, your point that men have a specific, a particular difficulty.
Yes.
I guess with all the things we're talking about today. So Christiana mentioned earlier that many women wouldn't mention they're pregnant for the first trimester. Mine was whole 9 months. I wasn't going to mention that she was pregnant until the baby was born. So I didn't want to take the risk. So that was my level of anxiety. I guess I also wanted to avoid a trigger thing, but men have a special difficulty, which we have to work through. We have to learn how to, I guess, by protecting ourselves as much as anything else, right? And also not upsetting others unknowingly, unintentionally. It's all of that all at once, right?
Well, there's two bits. Yes. There's two bits, Annie. When we heal ourselves. So when I just feel, at least in the US, I can't speak globally, but men are very uncomfortable generally talking about emotional issues. And I think particularly trauma. I speak to this both for myself and my father, who was a World War II vet, and didn't talk at all about his PTSD. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, if we're able to, like I said, attenuate this, it never goes away, then maybe we can model that. And like Christiana's talking about having a trigger plan. So then maybe if we're running into other men that are having difficulties, we can say, have you considered creating a trigger plan? And they're going to go, what's a trigger, or what's a trigger plan? And so my point is, I think that we can help others once we get through it ourselves. And that's part of being there for someone else when, they're even in the middle of, if they don't know what a trigger is, maybe we can help explain.
Yeah, that's brilliant, my friend. That's brilliant.
I agree. So here is, I like what you said, Mike. Let me add to that. As I spoke about the trigger plan, here is what a trigger plan could potentially look like. The first thing is identifying the trigger. Hi, Joan. Identifying the trigger and being able to say what happens when you're triggered, right? What does your trigger look like? Because we don't walk around thinking, I'm going to get triggered and it looks like this. But if we sit down and have a moment to think and have that plan in place, we can say, okay, when I hear somebody's having a baby or I need to go to a baby shower, what feelings come up for me? Do I feel sad? Do I feel anxious? Do I feel stress? Do I feel jealousy? Do I feel all these feelings that we have? What is it that happens to me, happens to my body? Think of it physically. What happens to the body? Is there a type of response that I have on inside? Is there a physical one that is visible? Because everybody's trigger and their reaction to the trigger is different. So it's identifying the trigger to begin with. And then the next thing is what I call first response. When that trigger happens, what is your instinctive first response? What do you do now? How do you deal with it? Do you scream? Do you cry? Do you have a meltdown? Do you fall down? Are you curt with someone? Are you avoidant? Do you go through avoidance? Do you walk away from people? Are you short with people? What does that look like for you? What's your first response? And then take that first response this is what exactly happens to me. And then next to it, in your trigger plan, is how do I overturn, right, this feeling? Is it by grounding? Is it by visualization? So all the things I mentioned earlier, which one of those fits in to then become your first response? It's like first aid, right? It's first aid for miscarriage and baby loss triggers. The second one is safe person to contact. So where your first response isn't working or hasn't worked for you for some, who do you call, or who can you call to distract you from what you're experiencing? Right? So in your trigger plan, you I don't say you must, but my strong suggestion is have a name and a phone number. Because for those that experience, you know, physical hyperventilation, physical panic attack, which does happen, by the way, and you're not able to speak or articulate yourself in that moment, is having that plan out as a card and just saying, here you go. Can you contact this person for me? So there's a named person on there that they can contact for you if you're able to do that yourself. The distractions, so Mike saying one's a small another thing. Yes, Mike. Distraction list. So again, I spoke about distraction a little bit when we're dealing with toddlers and children who want to throw tantrums. The technique is using distractions, and visualization is that too. So what does yours look like? Is it a podcast? Is it going for a walk? Is it coming away from that situation completely, turning around and walking away that triggers you? Or when you've had a trigger in your brain, how do you not distract yourself from the trigger? Do you have a playlist? Do you think, okay, I'll get a drink? Face palm, yes. So do you do any one of these things on your list? So make a list of what it is that helps you and the aftercare. So what happens in that aftermath? Once you've gone through that list, what do you do? Do you journal it down? Do you cry about it? Do you go to sleep so that your body can be in a relaxed state and recoup? Do you have a therapist that perhaps you may want to contact? And again, in that safe person contact, you could also have the number of your therapist if that is what you choose to do. They can feature in there. But if all else fails, if you get into a crisis mode, a crisis state, always seek emergency services or the Samaritans or somebody that you know that can help you out. Or you can always get in contact with me. So it's really important. Yes, it's a first response responder, Mike.
I mean,
Really important.
I will call you first. I promise. Well,
Thanks, Joni. I've been thinking about it, and for me, I spent, I think, last year putting together a miscarriage and baby loss first aid. And when I first mentioned this, people were like, "Are you crazy? What is this? Like, that doesn't make any sense." But the reality is, when it comes to triggers, it makes sense to have a first response plan in place. Because it really does help. And I mean, there are other organizations that you can contact. But the reality is, depending on where you are in the world, you have people to help you. You have people to help you out and to be able to move forward. If you are experiencing serious PTSD symptoms, definitely get your health practitioner in place. Go and see your therapist. Get in-depth help, to support you to move forward. And that is what I wanted to bring to you guys today. The other part is getting yourself in contact with peer support groups and specialist groups. So, or join my WhatsApp group. So yes, that, my friends, is all I have for you today. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mike, and thank you for always supporting us. I'm going to give Joni literally 30 seconds because I've got to go. 30 seconds to tell us how she is, and
Yay.
your thoughts on triggers. We literally have.
Yes, I'm going to. I'll be really quick. I've just been really overwhelmed. I've been really overwhelmed with selling my house, and then I got an offer, and then their financing didn't go through, and then I had to put it back on the market, and I am like just a little spacey about that. So, anyways, you guys know I had 2 miscarriages. Probably not with the right person. Sorry. Oh, I didn't. And I think men who, if you're not in the right situation, men sometimes don't know that that's a child, like that you've thought about in your body. They're just excited to be pregnant. And so they don't remember like the dates of like your DNC or anything. And I think that really did trigger me when I was younger. And anyways, I think a lot of men can be kind and not like that, but that was my experience. And so, like, why did I get kind of edgy around Halloween? Oh, because I got DNC on Halloween. So that's it. And I just want to say hello to my friends and everyone, and their wonderful voices are just really good to hear.
Thank you so much. So, very quickly, I'm going to do this in a few seconds. Thank you so much again for being here, Mike. Thank you, Joni, Annie, Alavine, Alexis. I sing a song for David. Yes, definitely, Mike. I've worked with domestic violence previously in my previous career, so I completely understand where you're coming from, what you're saying. As I was saying, thank you so much, for being here and always supporting us. If you're watching this on replay, feel free to DM me. If you have any more questions or just like to have a chat, do let me know. And thank you for those who continue to be brave on this journey. The bravery that it takes to listen and to share. Triggers can be startling and painful. They're not a failure. They're a reminder of what we've lost and what we loved and lost. And the tools that I've shared today, I appreciate will not erase the love, but they can help you move through moments of pain with more safety and choice. And if today I've raised anything for you or has triggered you in any way, please, get in touch with me for a chat. Um, and I will definitely be happy to hear from you. And don't forget, your self-care is really important, whether that means a walk, a call to a friend, 5 minutes breathing. We've spoken about breathing techniques today, the box technique, the 478 technique. So that is something that I believe can support you if practiced calmly in a private space. Last thing I'm going to do is a small poem that goes like this. Small lighthouses we keep inside. They hold the small bright names we cannot hide. When seas grow loud and night closes in, we watch those lights, let them steady the dim. You carried a love that no one can measure, a quiet, fierce, unfinished treasure. When a memory wakes and the world feels cold, remember that light is yours to hold. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all of you being here, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks' time. Any last words before we jump off?
Any last words? I like that. Any last word? Of course, I have last words. Now, mine, Christiana will go through your comments, I'm sure. Right, and this is the last word I want to leave you with. Mike shared this in one of my rooms yesterday, and I was like, save it for today. And here we are. So he says, Christiana, what remarkable acts of grace you bring to life's most fragile scenes. Your compassion, steady guidance turns heartbreak into a quiet symphony of healing where hope slowly takes center stage again. You remind others that even after the curtain of loss falls, love and resilience always find their own core. Hashtag Team Christiana. Yes.
Thank you. That
Thank
is
you.
so amazing, Mike. Always, like I said, he has a way with words.
It really,
Always.
it really.
Okay, wait.
We
I have
appreciate
one.
you.
Can I say one thing?
Of
Yes.
course.
Okay. So this is for Christiana. If I could hold light in my hand, I would give it to you and I would watch it become your shadow.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Journey. That is beautiful. Beautiful.
You're pretty dope at what you do, all right?
Well, I'm giving it to those that experience this. So this is not for me. I didn't begin this journey for myself, but for those that truly need this help and support.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's
I
not
think you made a lot of friends along the way. That is good for you. For you.
Thank you guys. I won't keep you guys any longer, but Joni, we have to catch up because
Yeah,
your
I have a
phone
phone
finally
number.
is
You have
working,
it.
right? So definitely
Let's
WhatsApp.
do that. Let's do that after the bathroom.
So thank you guys. Alavine, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any last words before we go? And I'll give the last one to Mike before we go.
So,
Alavine, unmute. Thank
yeah.
you.
So, yes, thank you very much too. I discovered some part of things and remember some other things. And I said in the private chat the fact we can go for denials because in my case I can deny because I have no proof. I just have this simple trigger is when my womb contracts. I have some contractions. That's it for me, but I have no proof, nothing. And so, thank you very much for this moment. So maybe I imagine it because everyone around me told me, "Oh, you gain weight," and after they see I lost weight, and after a while, some professionals told me that if I had no proof that it was just in my mind, it doesn't exist. So I don't know if I imagine it or if it was true. Anyway, thank you for this time and thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much, Alavine. So nice to meet you. And let's connect and have a chat.
All right,
Um,
let's do that.
Thank you. Send me a DM and we'll have a chat. So, Mike, the amazing wordsmith, can we hear your final words?
If I can keep from getting all choked up, I'm going to
Okay.
say healing from trauma is like peeling an onion. You need to uncover each layer, and it will bring you to tears. But that is okay and normal. So that's the first comment.
Mhm.
And the second one, just keying off of what Joe said, I will stand in Christiana's shadow any day because it means that I'm basking in her light.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Your
And
ten
yeah.
pounds. Your £10 in the post. No, for sure, right? No, thank you, everyone that's joined us. Thank you, everyone that's spent the time with us tonight. So we're
Thank
back
you.
again in a couple of weeks. Thank you, Christiana, as well. Thank you so much, Christiana.
Thank you, any superstar.
What do we do on this month of baby loss month? What are we to do? Is it baby loss week?
It's Baby Loss Awareness Week. So from the 9th to the 15th, which is next week. In fact, I'm in London next week for an in-person event where I am a panelist in
So
person.
what? Congratulations! That's a gig, right? But no,
Thank
so
you.
turn left and head to Cornwall.
Yes, with your
Yeah,
food.
with my food, Christiana, with my food. I need my food. It's been almost a year, Christiana. You kept that food yet. We should eat it so you can cook
You're
some
going
more.
to get fresh ones. No, you'll get fresh ones instead.
I still want that one. And it's better than nothing, right?
Okay, of course.
Anyway, so what are we to do on this week then?
So this week we are to be mindful of those who are experiencing, we've just talked about triggers, those who are remembering their loved lost ones. So next week for me in London is about remembrance, and I will be lighting a candle with a group of others who've experienced this dreadful trauma, and be listening and be facilitating in small groups too. So it's anyone who has loved ones, whether you're in a work environment or you know somebody who's experiencing this, reach out, reach out and just check in, ask those questions. You've heard about the triggers and the categories of triggers, but also how you can support those experiencing, these triggers, and be that listening ear for them, be that shoulder for them, and let them just be able to confide, trust in you, lean on you. In terms of events, I have an event on Zoom next week, Tuesday, when we will be talking about rebuilding confidence after miscarriage and baby loss, with two other of my experts, mental health experts and a neuroscientist, who will be speaking about mental health, grief, and how this trauma impacts men and women that experience it. So yes, did that answer your question, Annie?
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm sure there's many things as corporates, especially that we can do to mark
Yes.
the week and to raise awareness, like you said, and I guess increase support for people who experience miscarriage and baby loss.
Yes, find those spaces or have people have safe spaces. You just never know where you're going to encounter and become a safe space for someone.
Excellent. My friends, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, 23rd. Take care.
Bye, everyone. And what? That's why. How do people join your Zoom? Is it for everyone, or is it for only
It's for everybody.
For your real
It's
friends?
for everyone.
It's for
everybody.
Just say she hasn't sent me the link.
So I will send you the link, and I'll send our friends a link for them to share as well. Because if you can help just one person, it'll be a great day. Definitely a great day for that person, and hopefully for yourself too. So I will send that out, and I'm going to be doing a post. So keep an eye on my posts. Tap that notification button, the bell, so that you will know when that post goes up tomorrow. Yes.
Awesome. Enjoy your evening, everyone. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Take care. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. She's